Dear children, in Brazil, tragedies that were once rare have become a common sight. Devastating floods, like those that recently struck Rio Grande do Sul, submerge entire cities in mud and despair. Dams collapse, and the cries of those who have lost everything echo like calls for justice. Oceans, once symbols of life and beauty, are tarnished by oil spills, turning them into deserts of destruction. As heartbreaking as it is, we know this is only the beginning. Reflect on the images we see almost daily: rivers overflowing, dragging homes and lives away, families left homeless, gazing at the ruins of their lives, people trudging through the mud, clutching the few belongings they could save. It's impossible not to ask, why so much suffering? Why now? And when we search for answers, they seem distant or unclear. Some blame nature, others human irresponsibility. But what if we are missing something greater? What if these events aren't merely accidents, but messages we fail to understand because we don't know where to look? Behind every catastrophe lies a deeper unease, the feeling that the world is speaking to us, trying to convey something urgent. Could these tragedies be intentional signs, demanding our attention? How are you feeling today? Is something weighing on your heart? If so, remember, I'm here to listen. Share your burdens, and together we can seek comfort and strength. You are never alone. Throughout history, in moments of pain, humanity has sought meaning, often finding answers that go beyond the immediate and visible. The chaos we witness today might be a call from something divine, urging us to awaken. But the critical question remains: are we ready to listen? Listening means facing uncomfortable truths, accepting that these events may have a purpose, and acknowledging our role as individuals and as a society. Let's embark on this journey, not to find blame, but to understand what these tragedies mean for us as a community and for our relationship with the sacred. What might God be trying to tell us? And most importantly, what should we do in response? Ignoring the signs would be the true tragedy. Brazil is a stage for calamities that seem to strike without end. From north to south, floods devastate cities, dam collapses like Brumadinho and Mariana leave trails of destruction, and oil slicks suffocate marine life and beaches. What does all of this truly signify? Is it merely the result of human error or natural phenomena, or is there something deeper at work? Consider recent events. The historic floods in Rio Grande do Sul wiped out entire communities in mere hours. Families lost their homes, and in many cases, their loved ones, while they slept. Stories like these echo across the country. And yet, these tragedies often dominate the news for a few days before fading into oblivion. Meanwhile, those affected continue their uphill battle to rebuild, often with inadequate support. These catastrophes aren't isolated coincidences. They follow a pattern that extends beyond what we see on the surface. Each tragedy carries a warning, each loss an invitation to reflect. But are we truly paying attention? Beyond the immediate suffering, there is environmental devastation to confront. Deforestation, waterway diversion, and irresponsible resource exploitation create the conditions for chaos. We are unwittingly setting the stage for our own undoing. And yet, there is another layer to this, one many avoid exploring. The spiritual dimension of these events forces us to grapple with tough questions. Why does God allow this? Some rage against the heavens, others remain silent. But perhaps now is the time to look deeper, to face these questions head-on, and to seek understanding in the midst of the chaos. These events go beyond being physical warnings. They are calls to reflect, not just on our treatment of the environment, but on how we are living our lives. Whether we call it God or the universe, something may be trying to wake us up. The question is, are we listening, or are we blindly repeating the same mistakes, expecting different results? In this exploration, we'll not only seek to understand what's happening, but also uncover the lessons these events hold for us. By examining the intersections of faith, spirituality, and human actions, we can gain a deeper understanding of why these tragedies occur and how we can transform our reality. The insights ahead may shift your perspective entirely, illuminating a larger truth we cannot afford to ignore. Failure to acknowledge this could be our greatest mistake. We have reached a point where we must ask difficult questions, those that challenge our beliefs and stir our souls. In the face of so much suffering, we are compelled to wonder, why is this happening? Is there a purpose behind it? Is God trying to tell us something? Most importantly, are we willing to listen? These disasters confront us with the possibility that our understanding of the world, and of God's role in it, may need to be reevaluated. For some, God's presence during these tragedies feels distant, or even absent. Others see Him as fully in control, allowing such events for a greater purpose. What, then, is the truth? Are these calamities divine lessons, or are they consequences of human choices? The answer is not simple, requiring us to look beyond the surface. The Bible offers stories that shed light on God's role during crises. Consider Job, a righteous man who endured unimaginable losses. His suffering was not punishment, but served a greater purpose, testing and refining his faith. Similarly, the prophet Isaiah reminds us that God is the creator of both light and darkness, a truth that forces us to grapple with the coexistence of love, chaos, and free will. Why would a loving God allow such suffering? Perhaps the answer lies in human nature. Tragedy compels us to confront our shortcomings, reassess our priorities, and reflect on whether we are living in alignment with divine principles. Are we caring for one another, stewarding the planet responsibly, and maintaining a meaningful connection with the sacred? Or are we ignoring signs and paving a path toward destruction? Each tragedy is an invitation to reflection. When faced with suffering, we have choices: to ignore it, harden our hearts, or seek meaning and change. It's possible that God is asking a profound question. What are you doing with the world I have entrusted to you? This question demands more than a superficial response. It calls for introspection into our actions, thoughts, and priorities. Negligence, greed, and spiritual apathy have tangible consequences, and the turmoil we see may be a reflection of these failings. This journey leads us to one of the most delicate and challenging aspects of faith, reconciling belief in a just and loving God with the existence of tragedy, suffering, and loss. If we believe in a sovereign God, how do we understand His role in the chaos around us? Could it be that the answers we seek are already present, waiting for us to approach them with courage and honesty? God does not merely pose questions, He offers answers. The challenge lies in whether we are ready to hear them. Let us face this truth with open hearts, ready to uncover the deeper meanings of the tragedies we endure, and to act upon the lessons they reveal. The first thing to understand is that God is unique and absolute. The Bible teaches us that He is the creator of all things. There are no two opposing forces controlling the universe. God is the creator of both light and darkness, good and evil. This may seem contradictory, but it reveals a profound truth about God's nature and governance of the world. As Isaiah says, "I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I the Lord do all these things." Isaiah 45 verse 7. It's uncomfortable to think that evil originates from God's sovereign will, but it's a biblical reality. This doesn't mean God is cruel or indifferent to suffering. Instead, it points to a greater purpose often unseen in the moment of pain. Job, a righteous man, faced unimaginable loss, not as punishment, but as a test that strengthened his faith and took him to a higher spiritual level. God didn't create us as puppets in a perfect world. He gave us freedom and agency, along with the responsibility for our choices. Devastating natural tragedies are often worsened by human actions, like deforestation and environmental neglect. God created a balanced world, but we often disrupt that balance. Evil and tragedy are not only proof of God's sovereignty, but also a reflection of our distance from Him and our failure to care for the world He entrusted to us. God allows evil, not to cause suffering, but because He knows we grow through confrontation with pain. He never abandons us, even in the darkest moments. As seen in the book of Job, God restores and brings deeper understanding. If you wonder why God allows evil, the answer lies in His knowledge of what we need to learn, transform, and overcome. Evil is not the end, but a means to growth and connection with something greater. We must examine our role in these tragedies. What are we doing or not doing that contributes to them? And what can we do to change the situation? The book of Job, beyond being a story of suffering, is a revelation about faith, pain, and divine purpose. It's an essential lesson for understanding our current challenges. Job's story teaches us that suffering isn't always punishment, but a divine instrument to shape our character and bring us closer to God. Job, though questioning and crying out, never lost sight of God's sovereignty. Job's story also teaches us about humility. God's response to Job, full of questions about the creation, reminds us of our limited understanding and the need for faith. In the end, Job is restored, a testament to God's work in our lives, even in the darkest moments. He receives double everything he had lost, but the true reward wasn't material, it was spiritual. Job gained a new understanding of God and himself. He learned that even in suffering, God is present, the divine purpose is greater than temporary pain, and maintaining faith leads to transformation. This lesson applies to us today. Like Job, we often face seemingly senseless tragedies. Instead of seeking blame or immediate answers, we are called to reflect: is God using these moments to transform us? Is He calling us to abandon our limited vision and trust in a greater purpose? These tragedies can be tests of our faith, character, and ability to face suffering with purpose. We may not understand everything now, but Job's story reminds us that God is working even in the midst of pain. Let's explore how to interpret these divine messages and guide ourselves towards a deeper connection with God and our purpose. We've reached a crucial point. How do we interpret God's messages through tragedy? Are we listening, or are we so focused on the chaos that we lose sight of the purpose behind it? The Bible offers a key: every event, every moment of pain, is an opportunity for transformation. Nothing is by chance. Every event, big or small, is under God's sovereign control. The question isn't just why is this happening, but what is God trying to teach us with this? God communicates through blessings and calamities. When we turn away from divine ways, we face consequences. Tragedies like floods, droughts, and dam failures are God's call to reflect on our lives. Are we living according to His values? Are we caring for the planet He entrusted to us? Or are we ignoring His words and seeking only our own interests? God calls us to reflection and action. When we allow our faith to grow cold or ignore the signs, we distance ourselves from Him. These circumstances are not meant to punish, but to get our attention. Our response should be heartfelt: reevaluate our priorities, repent, and align our lives with God's purposes. Prayer, accompanied by action, is essential. Ignoring God's lessons traps us in a cycle of pain and destruction. These messages aren't just individual, they are for society as a whole. Deforestation, corruption, and greed reflect how we've treated the world and each other. God entrusted us with creation, but we often destroy it. His message is not just warning, but redemption. He calls us to transform, to see these tragedies as invitations to a deeper connection with Him and others. When we choose to listen, reflect, and act, we open the way to spiritual and material renewal. 2 Chronicles 7 verse 14 offers a plan of action: humility, prayer, seeking God's face, and turning from evil ways. We've explored God's sovereignty and the spiritual calling of tragedy. Now, let's examine our human responsibility. What are we doing or not doing that contributes to these disasters? Our actions often reflect selfishness, negligence, or ignorance towards the world God entrusted to us. From the beginning, God gave us a clear mission to cultivate and guard creation. This calling wasn't limited to Adam, it extends to all humanity. We are responsible for caring for the planet, protecting it, and using it wisely. However, what we see today is a stark contrast to this mission. Deforestation, pollution, and the exploitation of natural resources reflect human choices with devastating consequences. We don't need to look far to see the results. Dams built without adequate safety, rivers diverted from their natural courses, and entire cities built in risk zones. These aren't nature's problems, they are the direct result of our decisions. We often ask, why did God allow this, without examining our own actions? In many cases, it's not God who sends disaster, but our irresponsible choices that create the conditions for it. We deforest areas that absorb rainwater and prevent floods, and we eliminate mangroves that act as natural barriers against storms. When these disasters strike, we act as if they are unpredictable. This reality not only affects the environment, but also impacts those who suffer most. Communities living in forgotten, high-risk areas, ignored by public policies and society, pay the price. While some accumulate wealth by exploiting the Earth's resources, many lose everything to floods, landslides, or droughts. Human responsibility isn't just environmental, it's also spiritual. When we allow greed, corruption, and selfishness to rule, we disrespect not only the physical world, but also divine principles. The Bible is clear, our choices have consequences. Galatians 6 verse 7 states, "Do not be deceived, God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows." We are reaping the fruits of the seeds we've sown. So, what can we do? First, we must recognize that change starts with each of us. Small actions can have big impacts. Reducing waste, supporting sustainable practices, and urging leaders to implement responsible environmental policies are all part of our role as caretakers of creation. We also need collective change. Big problems require big solutions, meaning we must join forces as a society to protect our planet and communities. It's essential to seek a balance between material and spiritual action. Caring for the environment isn't just a practical issue, it's an expression of our obedience to God. When we choose to protect the world He created, we show gratitude and reverence for His purpose. Helping the most vulnerable is living out the love He taught us. We must view tragedies as learning opportunities. Each disaster is a reminder that we can and should do better. We can't control everything, but we can control our choices. God gave us intelligence, creativity, and resources to transform the world. It's up to us to use them wisely and purposefully. In the next part, we'll explore practical and spiritual ways to transform this reality. How can we act today to prevent future tragedies and strengthen our connection with God? It's time to bring hope and solutions. After facing the harsh realities of tragedy, recognizing God's sovereignty, and accepting our human responsibility, we reach the most important moment. What can we do to transform this reality? Individually and collectively, we can create a future where tragedies aren't the norm, but opportunities for growth, redemption, and renewal. The first step is understanding that change begins now, not tomorrow or next year. It must happen on two fronts, the spiritual and the practical. Both are indispensable, as spirituality guides us, while our material actions shape the world around us. Spiritual renewal, reconnecting with God, is key. 2 Chronicles 7 verse 14 offers a powerful promise. If my people, who are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land. This isn't just hope, it's a call to spiritual action. Reconnecting with God means reflecting on our choices, aligning our lives with His principles, praying sincerely, seeking truth in His Word, and repenting of the paths that led us astray. When we recognize our dependence on God, we make space for Him to act in our lives and society. But prayer alone isn't enough. God calls us to action. James 2 verse 26 states, "Faith without works is dead." Our actions in the physical world are as important as our spiritual connection. Here are some practical ways to begin transformation. Environmental protection respect and care for God's creation. Support reforestation, reduce your environmental impact, and pressure leaders for sustainability policies. Supporting vulnerable communities. Natural tragedies disproportionately affect the poorest and most marginalized. We can help rebuild their lives by offering emotional, spiritual, and financial support. Changing personal habits. Every small choice makes a difference. Reduce consumption, avoid waste, and take care of your living space. Remember, we are all called to guard the world, to use our knowledge, creativity, and understanding to build a better future. Together, as a community, we can face greater challenges. Imagine the impact of entire communities mobilizing to care for the environment, help those in need, and seek God with fervor. This is the power of unity. It can move mountains. No matter how dark reality may seem, we must never lose sight of hope. God promised that one day there will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the former things have passed away. Revelation 21 verse 4. This promise reminds us that suffering is temporary, and we are moving towards something greater and more perfect. Until then, our role is to prepare the way. We are called to be instruments of transformative action, bringing light to darkness and hope to despair. Every small action, done with faith and love, contributes to this purpose. It's not too late to transform Brazil or the world. We can start now, with humility and determination, uniting faith and action to create a better future. You are part of this story. Your choices, your voice, and most importantly, your faith can move mountains. We are reaching the end of this journey, but in truth, this is just the starting point for something much greater. Now that we've explored tragedies, God's messages, our responsibilities, and the paths to hope, an essential question remains: what will you do with all this? We see a Brazil marked by pain, loss, and challenges, but also a country with immense potential for transformation. Every tragedy, no matter how devastating, carries an opportunity to come together, reflect, and act. We can no longer allow pain to become a mere statistic or a passing memory. We must transform suffering into purpose. The biggest lesson we've learned is that we have choices. God gave us free will and the responsibility to care for the world and its people. We can continue on a path of destruction and indifference, or we can choose to be agents of change. Remember, every small action matters. Every time you choose to care for the environment, help someone in need, or seek God sincerely, you're planting a seed for a better future. When these actions multiply, they have the power to transform not just one life, but an entire nation. The journey begins with you. You are called to be the difference. Don't wait for big changes from governments or others. Start where you are, with what you have. If you believe in God, pray, ask for direction, and the strength to act. If you see a need around you, act. Small steps lead to big impacts. The Bible provides a clear model: faith and works, prayer and action. God is by your side, but He also expects you to do your part. He reminds us that we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us, Romans 8 verse 37. Now more than ever, we need unity. Tragedies show us that no one can face these challenges alone. We need each other. We need communities united by faith and the purpose of creating a better world. When we unite, we multiply our strength and show the world what God can do through committed people. I invite you to be part of this transformation. Share this message, spread hope, and call others to reflect and act alongside you. Together, we can build something extraordinary. This video isn't just about tragedies, it's about redemption, purpose, and action. It's about the opportunity to transform the world around us. And the best part, we are not alone. God is with us every step of the way, guiding, strengthening, and calling us to be light in the midst of darkness. Don't let this message end here. Decide today to take that first step. Share your intentions, inspire others, and put your decisions into practice. You're part of something bigger. You're called to be light in the midst of darkness, to make a difference in the world. Accept this invitation, respond to this call, and let's transform our reality together. We've reached the end of this video, and now everything depends on you. Despite all the reflections shared, it's your decision that can transform this discussion into real action. This isn't just another video, it's a personal invitation to actively participate in the change the world needs. You might ask, what can I, alone, do in the face of such big problems? The answer is more than you imagine. Big transformations start small. It's about taking the first step and trusting that God will be there. God is calling us all to be agents of change, and that change begins on two levels, in the heart and in action. I invite you to seek a deeper relationship with God. He's not just watching, He's waiting for you to turn to Him. Surrender your heart to Him. If you have doubts, ask for wisdom. If you have fears, ask for courage. He's ready to strengthen and guide you. Take a moment to reflect on what we've discussed. Pray, and ask God to show you how to transform your life and the world around you. After prayer, it's time to act. Here are some practical ideas. Care for the world. Start at home. Avoid waste, care for the environment, and participate in local initiatives for reforestation or protecting risk areas. Help others. Support vulnerable communities. Donate what you can, whether it's time, resources, or words of encouragement. Multiply this message. Share this video with friends and family. Spread hope and awareness, and invite others to join you in this movement of change. Together, we are stronger. When we unite our efforts, we can achieve extraordinary results. Imagine a national movement where thousands of people rise up to protect the environment, help those in need, and seek God with sincerity. This is the force that can transform Brazil and the world. The path won't always be easy. There will be challenges, moments of doubt, and tiredness. But remember, you're not alone. God is with you, guiding and strengthening you every step of the way. Together, we can create a lasting legacy. Don't let this message end here. Decide today to take that first step. Share your intentions, inspire others, and put your decisions into practice. You're part of something bigger. You're called to be light in the midst of darkness, to make a difference in the world. Accept this invitation, respond to this call, and let's transform our reality together.